Hello, my name is Stephen Lambert. I go by he, him pronouns. I am a tech lead and people manager at DQ Systems. I'm also the primary developer on Axe Core, the accessibility testing library. In case anybody wants to get a hold of me later or connect, you can find me on Twitter using the handle @StephenKLambert. You can email me using stephen@sklambert.com, or you can visit my website, stephenklambert.com, and contact me there. So before we dive into how to configure Axe, I first wanted to give a quick overview of what Axe is and how to use it in case anyone was unfamiliar. So Axe is an accessibility engine for automated web UI testing. What that means is that Axe runs a set of rules on a page or your code to test for accessibility problems. Here is an example of how you would use Axe on a web page. You would first load a script whose source points to the Axe Core library. In this case, it's from unpkg.com/axe-core@latest/axe.js. That will load the main Axe Core library onto your page. Once that's loaded, you can use a script of type module to await the axe.run results. Using those results, you can then log out the violations property, which will show you each rule that reporting a violation. Here is an example output of what that would look like. So the violations property is an array where each index of the array is an object. Those objects will list the rule name that failed, as well as things like the impact on the user and all nodes that failed the particular rule. So in this example, I'm showing that there is a landmark 1 main violation, a page has heading 1, and region rules are all failing. So where can you use Axe? Well, Axe has many integrations into various languages and frameworks. The main library is axe-core, and that can be used in the browser or node directly. We also provide a handful of integrations into the command line and popular testing frameworks. So on NPM, you can look at the @axe-core namespace, and there you can find the CLI integration, a Playwright, a Puppeteer, a React, a WebDriver IO, and a WebDriver JS integration. This year, we also released a new integration for VS Code, which is called Axe Linter, and it provides accessibility linting for your code that is consistent with Axe Core's rule engine. So what that means is that as you type, you will get linting suggestions for anything that we can detect. Lastly, we have other integrations, such as the Chrome and Firefox extensions. We also have integrations into Java and various Ruby libraries, but we won't be covering any of those for this presentation. We will just be talking about JavaScript and Node-compliant integrations. So now that we know what Axe is and how to use it, I want to talk about how to configure which rules Axe runs. So as I mentioned, Axe runs a set of rules to determine the accessibility problems on a page. By default, Axe will run all supported rules. Now, which rules are supported depends on which integration you are using. So for Axe Core and its various node integrations, you can find the supported rules by going to the Axe Core GitHub page. In there, we have a docs directory and the rule-descriptions.md file, which will list all supported rules. For Axe Linter, you can find the list of supported rules by going to the VS Code Axe Linter page. For Axe Core, there's about 91 supported rules that you can look at. And for Axe Linter, as I mentioned, as only a subset of rules, has about 33 supported rules. So there are various ways that you can configure which rules Axe will run. For starters, you can disable a certain set of rules so that they won't run during a normal run. You could also specify a certain set of rules to only run, and you can also run rules that match a particular tag. Now, for this presentation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show an example of how to do this in only 3 integrations. So I'll show you how to do it in Axe Core. I'll show you how to do it in an example of a node integration like Puppeteer, and I will also show you how to do it in Axe Linter. So first, I want to talk about disabling rules. So let's say, as an example, that you wanted to disable 2 particular rules, the button name and label rules. Now, the button name rule ensures that every HTML button element has an accessible name, and that can be used either through having text content in the button, or that the button has an ARIA label, ARIA labeled by, or title attribute. The label rule does something similar, where that it ensures every input element has an accessible name, either through an associated label element, or using the ARIA label, ARIA labeled by, or title attribute. So for using this in Axe Core, what you would do is you would pass an options object to axe.run. The object takes a rules property, whose value is also an object. Each key of that object is the name of the rule that you want to disable. And then the value of that is an object who takes an enabled property and can pass either true or false. Now, true is the default behavior, and that means that the rule will run. Passing false will disable the rule, so the rule won't run. So in this example, we passed the button name and label rules, and we enabled false both of them. For a CLI and a test framework, so what you would do is you would initialize a new Axe Builder object. That allows you to chain a couple functions off of it. One of those functions you can chain is called disabled rules. And the disabled rules function allows you to pass a rule name or an array of rule names that you wish to disable. So in this case, we can pass an array of button name and label to disable both of those rules. And then lastly, you would chain the analyze function, and that would then run Axe on that page. For Axe Linter, we don't have an API you can use, so instead what you do is you configure it through a config file. The config file you can use is called axe-linter.yaml, and that file must be at the root of your project for Axe Linter to find it. Inside of that YAML file, you would set the rules key, which is a dictionary, and each key of that dictionary is then the rule name that you wish to disable, and the value is a true or false again, where true means run the rule, which is the default behavior, and false means disable the rule. So for this particular example, we pass button name and label and set them false in the YAML file. So that's how you would disable certain rules. And now to do the inverse, we want to run only a certain set of rules. So now let's say that instead of disabling button name and the label rules, you wanted to enable them and make them the only rules that run. So for Axe Core, we once again will pass an object to axe.run. That options object takes now the run only property, whose value is either a rule name or an array of rule names to run. So in this case, we would pass an array of button name and label, and then that will make Axe only run those 2 rules when it returns results. For the CLI and test frameworks, what you would do is you would initialize Axe Builder once again, and this time chain the function with rules. And the with rules function will take a single rule name or an array of rule names, and then only run those when you call analyze. For Axe Linter, unfortunately, we don't have a way for you to enable only a certain set of rules. So the only way that you can do this is you'll have to disable all other rules and then only enable the ones that you want. So Axe Linter has about 33 rules, so you would have to list all 33 rules, put false for 31 of them, and then true for just button name and label rules. Again, to find the list of supported rules, you can go to the VS Code Axe Linter extension page. So now we want to run only rules that match a particular tag. So what is a tag? First, tags are ways to categorize rules into groups. In most cases, they're used to group rules by their WCAG version and conformance level. So, for example, the WCAG AA tag is used to group rules that pertain to WCAG 2.0 AA conformance. To see which rules are associated with which tags, you can go to AXCore's repo and look at the docs/rule-descriptions-md file once again. For a list of what tags are supported, you can go to AXCore's GitHub repo, do the docs directory, and look at the api.md file. In there, we have linked a list of all supported tags. The quick rundown for those supported tags will usually be WCAG 2A, AA, and AAA, as well as WCAG 2.1, A, AA, and AAA. Now for AXLinter, again, they support only a subset of tags, which I believe are WCAG 2A and AA, and WCAG 2.1, A, and AA. So AXLinter does not currently support any AAA rules. For AXCore to run only a certain set of rules, we once again will use the ax.run, passing an options object and using the run only property once again. But this time, instead of passing a set of rules, we will pass it a set of tag names. In this case, the WCAG 2AA and the WCAG 2A tags. Now, a thing to note about these tag names is that Ax will only run tags that match Ax will only run rules that match a specific tag. So for example, let's say you wanted to run all WCAG 2 AA conformance, which normally would mean that you've also fulfill WCAG 2A conformance. But Ax will not run WCAG 2A rules if you only pass the WCAG 2 AA tag. It has to be a one-to-one match. So if you wanted to run all rules to conform to WCAG 2A, you must pass the WCAG 2A and WCAG 2AA. Now for the test frameworks, you would again initialize Ax builder and then use the chainable function with tags. And with tags takes a single or an array of tags. And then once called analyze, only those rules would run. For AXLinter, you would use the tags property, which is a list of tags to run, and then you would list whichever tags you wanted to run. Lastly, I wanted to talk about some of the various options that Ax allows you to pass when you run it. A list of all available options can be found on the AXCore's API doc file. A note about run options. Run options are only supported in Ax and its integrations, and they are not really supported in AXLinter, with two exceptions. So a short list of run options. We've already talked about the run only and the rules properties. They have similar things in AXLinter, the run only being the rules or the tags properties. But we also support a few other things. So for example, we can support passing the result types property, and the result types lets you limit which results are shown. So either pass results, incomplete, or violations. You can also pass the iframes option, and that will tell Ax to run or not run within iframes. By default, an Ax integration will run in all iframes on the page. So for an example, let's say that we only wanted to have the violations results shown. So we would pass the result types object to ax.run, and then it's an array, and we would pass the violation string. And what this will do is when ax.runs, you will get back a list of all the rules still, but for those rules that didn't match the particular types, they will only show one node. So for any passes in this example, only one node will show a pass for that rule. What that allows you to do is it's useful for improving performance on very large pages or very complicated pages where you're only interested in a certain type of result. For the test frameworks, you would use the options chainable function to pass the list of options that way. And that is how you configure Axe. Thank you for coming to this presentation. If you want to get a hold of DQ, you can do so at any of these places. You can use their Twitter at DQ Systems. You can find them on GitHub at DQ Labs. You can also connect on LinkedIn at DQ-Systems-Inc. and also on YouTube at DQ Systems Inc. No dashes. Thank you.